Next Curve.
Welcome to this Next Curve Rethink podcast episode where we break down the latest tech and industry events and happenings into the insights that matter. And I'm Leonard Lee, Executive Analyst at Next Curve. And I'm here with a very special guest, Sebastian Barros. Or is it Barros?
Barros.
Yeah.
You have a good pronunciation.
Yeah, I took Spanish in high school, junior high and high school, and all I know is donde es los baños.
That's actually quite handy.
Yeah. It's worked for me, on several very important, urgent occasions. But hey, Sebastian is a former Ericsson, former Google, and then former Ericsson again, and a provocateur, I think, and a thought leader at the same time. And of course, in all things telco and AI, right? I mean, you are like one of the few guys that I know, or persons that I know, who's handled a real human brain, not of a live person, mind you, right?
It was a live person. It was pretty depression.
Really?
Of course, a disease patient.
Yeah. Hopefully not a live one.
Yeah, some few recordings in university in the medicine department.
Yeah.
They allowed me to record not only the whole the whole autopsy, right? I also hold the brain, and so it was quite big, shocking, and humbling experience, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, that was a really I would say impressive moment for you. That impressed everybody. But yeah, it goes to show the depth that you're going with this topic of AI, right? Because I think a lot of folks are enamored by what surfaces at the glass, but there's so much stuff underneath. And it's not just about GPUs or infrastructure. AI, broadly speaking, is about so much. And it's great to see you doing these explorations, because it's important for folks like you who have a technical background, who have worked with technologies and surfaced them to customers as solutions, to understand, what the architecture, the solution architecture is for AI, right? And it apparently starts with a brain, a fresh brain. Yeah, so we're going to cover a simple agenda here, right? Number one, I just want to pick your brain, no pun intended, on your thoughts on where telco is going in 2026, which should be a fun one. I mean, I know that you present a lot of points of view on that topic, especially lately. And then, of course, the question everybody is asking, what is 6G and what should it be about? Not what has it been documented to be about, but what should it be about? And then, touch on the topic of AI, right? So what is it about? And then why will GenAI in particular matter in telco, given what we've learned, right? Because, one of the things I say is that there's been a lot of learning, and there's an urgent need to unlearn a lot of things that were learned that were not right. But
it's probably the most difficult part. I agree.
Yeah, and that's where you need to filter, right? And so before we get started, remember to like, share, and comment on this episode, and subscribe to the Next Curve Rethink podcast here on YouTube and Buzzsprout. Take us on the road and on your jog, on your favorite podcast platform. This podcast is for informational purposes only. Statements by my guests are their own and don't reflect that of Next Curve. We just want to provide a forum for debate and constructive conversation on all things tech and on the industry. And with that, hey, I got to ask you, man. By the way, I have to say this. This is so cool to finally, meet you virtually, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in Barcelona. I know you're going to be there, but it's great to have you on the podcast, and I'm really looking forward to this chat. So let's start. Where is Telco going in 2026? And you already have a lot of thoughts, right? You have like a top. By the way, you got to check out his Substack. This guy is like prolific, right? What you got, like top 10 telecom startup investment strategies?
It's funny. One person unsubscribed from my Substack because he told me, "Look, Sebastian, I love your stuff, but it's too much." They cannot cope with so many things. I mean,
it's good though. I mean, here I like this one. AI agents are not employees. Calling them that is technical bullcrap. I totally agree with that. And you have resuscitating Open RAN. Does it need a doctor
or a priest?
Standalone is out. I'm still waiting for revenue, right? Which I take as 5G standalone is not like out the door. It's out right there for everyone to adopt, but it's still waiting or is being deployed. But where's the revenue kind of question, right? I mean, these are all important questions. And so, hey, man, the floor is yours. Where is Telco going in 2026? Tell us.
Yeah, I think 2026 is going to be a super interesting year for the telecom industry. And the main reason is because there's so many uncertainties.
Yeah.
I think this year will bring some lights in terms of those uncertainties. I mean, one thing I feel it's one of the big things that at least I want to know is what is going to happen with GPU in RAN. We saw Nokia announcing quite a big announcement, actually. I mean, the guy is getting 1 billion. Also saying, look, I'm going to commit my RAN roadmap, which, by the way, is like 35% of their total revenues, with NVIDIA, and I'm going to bet that inferencing will be needed at the access level. And it's in RAN or GPU in RAN, GPU in RAN. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
The telco community has not been so excited about that.
Yeah.
And here you have like a clash of two schools of thoughts, right?
Yeah.
The deterministic guys, which I will put Ericsson on that side, saying, look, I mean, that's an overkill. Why you need to put NVIDIA GPUs in a RAN? I think we can do it with accelerators. It's good enough. And then you have a new breed of companies saying, no, look, guys, I mean, there are many things that we can solve from a signaling processing and an RF that can be done better with neural networks. So I think that's going to be a big definition for me because it changed the way we think of networks. I mean, coming back to what Jensen once says, like data centers are becoming AI factories, right? Intelligent factories is something that telecom networks also should follow, or is only something that will happen at the regional data center level? So I think that's a hot topic for me. I think we should see some lights this year, not deployments, but pilots and things that will give us some lights.
Yeah.
The second one, I think you mentioned, Open RAN. Nailing the coffin, or we're going to see a revival story that will impress us all, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you see the exits from NAC, the exits from Mavenir from this business, Ericsson being the largest Open RAN player, which is almost like an irony. Being followed by Nokia as the second largest.
I know.
Because and probably the industry, this is a funny thing, right? After Open RAN, which you could say started somewhere around 2017, let's say, until now, there is more consolidation than diversity of vendors. More Huawei, Ericsson, Nokia, and Samsung than ever before. So the Open RAN folks will need to think a bit different in terms of what is their value proposition. I don't know what you think there, but I think it's a question mark for me. I don't know if they will survive.
Yeah. Well, no, I think it'll still be around. The missed opportunity. So the thing yeah, that whole consolidation you're talking about was like the whole Open RAN Squid Game that I coined like 4 years ago, right? And it was like a cautionary. It's sort of a cautionary type of thing that I came up with just to tell them, look, if you're going to scale, you can't think open. The technology can be open. The way that you build out the ecosystem, you have to create pockets of scale, and they failed to do that. Right? Nobody wanted to own anything. You know what I'm saying? They thought they wanted to just own the software layer. So nobody wanted to really own the stack. And that was the biggest problem in my mind.
No, I agree.
Sebastian. And
story.
Nobody. And I talked to a lot of the big guys that were playing in the early innings of the Open RAN, race, if you want to call it that. I hate that term, but anyways, I'll say it. But yeah, nobody wanted to own anything. You have to own it, right? You have to own it because that's what the customer wants. And then we went to that phase of integration. Remember systems integration? Nobody thought, hey, well, wow, you have to integrate this stuff, and then you have to have certification and attestation, all the stuff that was typical of building a full RAN solution, right? These are things that were at the very early phase not considered, but yeah. And now the question now is going back to your comment about GPU. What is AI RAN really about, and what is that value proposition? And I'm curious. What do you think that has to happen there in order for AI RAN to really be a substantial and meaningful conversation? Because right now there's a lot of squishy stuff being put out there. Hey, you can do AI on RAN and then in RAN and for RAN and blah blah blah. But my view is it's still a conceptual exploration more than a really well thought out solutioning exercise, right?
I will put it as it's a very long shot bet because two things need to happen, right? The first one, there needs to be demand. I was talking with some of the NVIDIA folks, and okay, when they build data centers with the massive amount of GPUs, they already see demand. So of course, then that gives you a guideline and at least some view that in the future there will be more demand for inference. Yeah. Not so much on training. Training, I think, is more of a one-time off. But now what we see is the massive demand on inferencing.
Yeah.
The first thing that will need to happen, I think that's why this year is very interesting. We will need to see some cases of enterprises or even AI models or hyperscalers that say, I cannot do all the inferencing at the global data center. I cannot do all the inferencing also at the device level. So I need something in between. That demand, that need, we haven't seen it yet. Of course, we understand the vision, and it's a bold vision, especially if you hear Jensen Huang. And there's some logic to it saying, well, if the world is becoming intelligence everywhere, probably you will need inferencing closer to the user and the devices and the machine. Now, that is something to be proved. Then the second question, which is also more down to earth, is can GPUs, because they will be expensive and they will consume a lot of power, right? So you will not be paying 100,000 for a site. You will be paying probably 200,000 for a site. Yeah. So the second thing that they need to prove, which is very concrete, is, okay, Ericsson can do a lot of improvement on the RF interface, signaling processing, beamforming, and so forth by just using accelerators, right? Now, if you put GPU in RAM, can you improve those metrics? Can you make now spectrum efficiencies of 30%? If you can show something like that, then the operator could say, okay, I'm spending several $billions in a spectrum. Maybe it makes sense. those are two question marks are open. Of course,
yeah.
But who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it just sounds like that whole performance debate that was happening even with Open RAN, because you did have these, everybody coming up with accelerator cards, accelerators. So this is not a new conversation. It's GPUs coming in. But my view is this, Sebastian, their value proposition has been from the beginning general purpose, in that you can leverage the same accelerator, in fact, the same infrastructure, okay, to handle almost every aspect, if not the entire stack of a RAN compute needs, all the way down to L1, L2 processing, everything, right? And then on top of that, have the general purpose flexibility to support all these inference applications or business applications on top. When you think about how things have turned out through every single one of these cycles of whether it's crypto, it's because GPUs were using crypto mining, they all moved to ASIC. They went to application specific, right? And so the building that case, a substantial case for the general purpose and accelerator and accelerated architecture, I think that's really what has to happen. I think my view is this: it's a tall order. Because application specific, there's non-GPU accelerators that are better for inference. And I don't think you're going to be doing a lot of large-scale model training across a RAN or even a network.
No, it will be mainly inferencing, because of course, I mean, why you will use a distributed architecture to train, right? You will usually, I mean, most likely train where you can concentrate compute power. So it's a bold, to be honest, it's a very bold bet from Nokia. So we will need to find out if they can show something this year.
Yeah. I mean, that is it's a big change. Yeah.
No, I agree. And it's not, for me, I put it in the question marks. I mean, it will be great if we can have some sort of inferencing at that level, and we can integrate it with larger hyperscalers. But there's a lot of things that need to happen, and also sometimes the things are not technology, right? I mean, we come from an industry that's extremely adverse to risk. They are really pressured by shareholders on dividends and to be very cautious on their investments, right? They're not OpenAI or any of these models that they can just go and burn money, right, and see what happens.
Yeah.
So, I think we will need to wait, but this is one of the cool things to look out this year.
Yeah, well, I do want to remind folks that telcos used to have a lot of money, enough to buy Time Warner, right? That was a lot of money, and a lot of money that didn't go anywhere because, a telco losing its identity, I think is problematic. So I want to pivot to the topic of business models, right? And then maybe reinvention of telco, because I know that you share a lot of points of view on that. I don't know if you want to call it a telco needing to become a techco. I'm not a big fan of that. But in light of what we're seeing here with this huge interest going into, I know that it was an interest last year, probably even more so going into MWC 2026 in Barcelona, is this whole Neocloud adjacency play. What are your thoughts there? Because you have shared points of view on that. Maybe you can share the finer bullet points.
Look, AI data centers run by telcos or built in partnership by telcos is now the new big thing, right? And we have some big announcements like Deutsche Telekom with Nvidia and also with SAP. We have seen also SKT in Korea launching several initiatives, one including GPU. So I'm looking forward to see what are the results. But also launching a sovereign data center. We have been there before as well. You remember 2007? No, 2010. Telco said, look, guys, the biggest thing now is going to be building our own data centers. We have the fiber. We know how to operate data centers because we have core networks. And now the business is going to be colocation. We're going to collocate whatever you need, and we're going to offer this to enterprise. That thing didn't really work so well. I mean, if you look at now by 2015, most of these telcos already sold for peanuts any data center investment because it was really bad. And what happened there? It became a commoditized business, pure real estate. There was real differentiator for a telco to do, right? So now the question is for me, okay, are these telcos repeating the same mistake? And I think not really. I think there are some few differences. Of course, they could fall in the same mistake of trying to compete in commoditized. But I have one rule, right? One rule is the following. I do believe that inferencing is the next big thing. It's not moving bits, but probably moving intelligence. And moving intelligence means you need to move inferencing. Now, inferencing in many cases, especially in the world we are living, which is completely polarized, will have some limitations to move anywhere. From regulatory, political views, security, or latency and performance. So I think that's a place. It's not the next future of telco, but it's a place where telcos can create some arbitrage. Arbitrage. So I think, for instance, what Deutsche Telekom is doing is smart. Europe is all about sovereignty. They have very strict rules. Even American companies cannot really freely move workloads from one place to another. There is a lot of conscious about security aspects. So I think, in a way, Deutsche Telekom is saying, well, this makes sense for me, right? I can run. I'm the local owner. I comply to all the regulations. Nobody knows better regulations and local networks than me. So I think in those kind of scenarios makes a lot of sense.
I think as long as the operator understands the nature of the business of Neocloud and the economics of it, and that, when you lose sight of that and you're just looking at the cycle of spending and making bets on demand. The thing is the demand has to be monetizable. What we're seeing is non-monetizable demand. In other words, the stuff is just being given away largely for free or compensated at a much lower level than the capital spending that's going into the infrastructure that supports or caters to that demand. That is that bubble dynamic that everyone is debating at the moment. And so as long as the operator understands that and is able to proactively manage the economics of Neocloud, a Neocloud business, then I think they can survive. If they don't, it's like oil and water. The telco business does not match what's happening with Neocloud, right? The economics are so different. And so that it's going to be interesting for me to see what Deutsche Telekom, how they handle it. You know what I'm saying? Because there'll be a huge test case, and a lot of that you mentioned and KT, the Korean telcos taking on sort of that deep dive into the Neocloud diversification, right? And then you see a lot of actually the Chinese operators doing sort of the same thing, but they've been kind of like CSPs, sort of like, a blend. So they might have a better feel for what it takes to successfully pursue a quote unquote CSP adjacency and make that work with telco economics than anyone else, quite frankly. I don't know. What are your thoughts there?
No, I mean, for me, I mean, if you look back, right? I mean, the mistakes of the past was that they built these amazing collocation capabilities, super capital intensive, and then workloads become standardized super quickly. So, and there was no real business, and margin got super compressed on data centers. And there was a complete organizational mismatch between telcos and data centers. So that was one big issue.
That's good insight.
Today, I think if they learn from the past, right, and that's a big if, there are certain opportunities coming from sovereignty. I think that one element is the inferencing cannot move. Of course, for a telco, which is a local owner of the network, can be a good thing. And there are some few things that I like. For instance, STC did a very interesting partnership with Humane. Humane is trying, you could say, the OpenAI of Middle East. They're investing a lot. And one of the challenges for Humane is that they need to accommodate more workloads in data centers. So STC was super fast to say, hey, my friends, I already have Center 3, which is their data center brand. I can accommodate for you 1 gigawatt of AI data center capacity, and also this will be sovereignty. And I think that is a smart move, because essentially STC is just taking captive workloads that they can run, right? Mm-hmm. But again, if they think that they can go and compete head to head with Equinix, I think that will be version 2 of the mistakes they did.
The cloud, telco cloud, the real telco cloud 1.0, right? Okay, so hey, let's talk about everyone's favorite topic or question, 6G. What should it be about? Tell us, Sebastian.
I think
you have no lack of.
I would be the CEO of I don't know, one of the big vendors. The problem with 6G is that 5G didn't do a great deal of promoting these G standards, right? I mean, there was a lot of disillusionment. Some of that disillusionment is understandable. I think the mistake made, especially if you remember 2017, right, when all the marketing machines start moving. It was crazy. I will not say the name of this person, but if you Google 5G as equals electricity, there was one CEO saying that 5G will be as important as electricity. So that was the hype level that the market was expecting.
Aren't they saying that about AI right now?
I would say it was even wilder. I remember 2017, remote surgery, flying cars, autonomous cars. I mean, and you will ask me, but for a remote surgery, okay, the connectivity is important, but what else? What about the robots that will be doing the surgery? No, that will come, Sebastian, no problem. So there was a massive hype. Then, because of all this geopolitical stuff, the standard was divided in two. So you got initially 4G with asteroids. That was 5G NSA. And then everyone started complaining. This is around 2022. Hey, we're not getting any revenues. hey, you need to wait, you need to upgrade to 5G SA because that's where the real fun start. Now, most operators are either upgraded or in the process, and still the revenues are not yet to be seen.
Yeah.
So that's the backdrop. Now, what's the problem, right? That I think the industry need a new architecture. They need to rethink networks because they are changing rapidly. But nobody, I think, even if you ask in the vendor community, is really sure how to reposition 6G. And we're running out of time.
Yeah.
We are, if you think about it, we're in 5G Advanced. 5G Advanced has release 18, 19, and then 20. 20 will come in 2027. Now we are commercially in release 19. But 2020 supposedly is the link to 6G. So kind of the natural evolution of the releases. And we are not there. We are not really understanding what we need. Now, from my perspective, my humble perspective, what do we need? So there's a few logics that we need to understand. The first one is that although traffic is not growing at the same rate, still, when you look 2030 with the most conservative projections, we will increase the total traffic in mobile networks by 2.6 to 3 times.
Yeah.
So they were running on 180 exabytes. By 2031, we're going to be running in almost 500 exabytes.
Yeah.
So that massive load needs to be managed.
Yeah.
And just doing feature releases will not help. We need to rethink the radio layers. The second part, which I think is important, is that I don't expect an AI data tsunami on the access network. Here I might differ with Noble Ericsson. I don't expect it. I don't see it. But I expect that the traffic composition will change dramatically.
Yeah.
There will be more burst of information coming. There will be more signaling coming, especially from wearables. Uplink heavy workloads, which is something we never we never more networks.
Yeah. Well, I want to interject in. I want to point you to this work that Mike Thielander did recently, looking at smart glasses and your comment about signaling, as well as maybe the marginal impact that he saw with uplink. That probably the most interesting finding was that one regarding signaling where it was more prolonged than he had anticipated. If a application was active with the smart glasses or the meta, what do they call it? Whatever the meta smart glasses versus just running the application with the smartphone. So. So I just wanted to highlight that and say hi to Mike.
It's a great report. I read it, and I think it gives some lights to where the traffic will change in its composition, and I don't think more like a tsunami, but probably we'll see more uplink, more signaling, and many other things. Now,
I think my point to him was it's still early. You don't have a lot of these devices to really be able to witness any kind of impact on traffic today. And then there's a lot of stuff happening on device that changes a lot of. It requires different thinking. It's not going to be so much about the network.
No, exactly. And one thing that we don't know, and we really don't know, because I was also thinking in this case, the problem with all the wearables we use today is that they don't behave as the endpoint. They don't have really the 5G modem in the device.
Yeah, right.
So we don't really know. For instance, let's say if economics work, let's say Mike Zuckerberg decide to say, look, screw this Bluetooth thing. I want to put a 5G modem in the glasses itself. Now, that will be actually, I'm writing about that. That will be a very different scenario to the scenario we have today, because What happened today is that since the Meta Ray-Ban communicates to the smartphone, a lot of the functions, even AI functions, inferencing, is done by the device. So what is left to the network is not so much. So I agree. There are many unknowns. Then the other part that we need to think about is that with 3 times more load, we need to think that energy is a massive constraint. We have seen it in 5G. So that needs to be rearranged. So in my view, we need a new standard, but that standard might be needed for different reasons. For these 4 reasons, right?
Yeah.
Now, the problem here is the following, right? And I think this is the big elephant in the room, and I don't think anyone has a good question. Is telcos are not really growing; they are stagnant. They have been stagnant for more than a decade. The traffic is keep growing. Of course, AI is coming to save them in a way, automating different things. But 6G, I think, and until at least from what I see now, has good propositions to improve the RF, improve energy, bring AI to radio. So it's all about, you could say, OPEX and CAPEX proposition. And the course, hey, but I need something to make money, right? And I don't see that yet. And that's, I think, is where we got.
Yeah, and I think the problem there is that number one, the application, the mobile application, is missing. Whether it's from it's catalyzed by or it comes about by a new device type, right? Whether it's any of these proposals for and existing and emerging forms of wearables and alternatives to the smartphone, or evolution of applications for the smartphone itself. I mean, I think the smartphone, I don't know, people want the smartphone to disappear, but I kind of like smartphones. I don't really have problems with them, there's this narrative that somehow it's going to disappear, but it actually continues to have a very important function. But those applications are missing, and a lot of that has to do with the maturity of the network, maturity of the operators themselves to have a channel of monetization, but more importantly, the supporting services or enabling services. Those are not there. And so your earlier comment about 5G being kind of like a letdown, you had SA, but I would argue NSA didn't made sense because the device penetration, the availability of endpoint devices that can support anything remotely close to 5G, like release 16 didn't exist, right? Very small numbers on the premium end. And SA is probably landing where it makes sense, but we might be anticipating benefit too soon. Because I'd love your reaction to this. I think that we have been so disappointed as an industry about 5G. Nobody has put a lot of energy into thinking about what is innovating on top of 5G.
Okay. I think you hit the nail there. So my view is the following, and this is maybe because we're so used to think on standards, releases, and features.
Yeah.
The thing is that we tend to think that a feature or a technical feature equals monetization.
Yeah.
And honestly, that was true. When I joined Telco, that was true. SMS was a technical feature, and you can make money. Voice, the good old voice, you can sell it, and data the same, right? Now, until that point, it makes sense, right? You have a new technical capability, you sell it, fine. But then we have a huge amount of technical features.
Yeah.
I think what we are lacking of is what we do with them. I mean, to some extent, Camera API is trying to answer that, saying, okay, at least expose it to someone.
Yeah.
But I think we haven't dig deeper there, saying, okay, I give an example. Yesterday I was watching this video from Ericsson on mobile positioning. So mobile positioning now with 5G advanced, you can do like millimetric outdoor positioning. Yeah, and also indoor you can do precision positioning. Fantastic, and they have like a nice little video with a robot, everything. Then you say, okay, these guys got a super cool feature that could be used in industrial purposes, but have we thought about all the things we need to do to make money out of it? Ecosystem, partners, enterprises, device support. Usually the answer is not. We leave the feature. We say we have the feature, but we don't think too much on what to do on top, right?
Yeah. And then I think in my interactions with operators, they're not really good at figuring this stuff out. I know that there's a lot of great collaborations, like industrial and consumer collaboration, collaborations going on. But the telcos themselves struggle with how to innovate. And I think the industry in general, you brought up network APIs. People really struggle figuring out what the hell an API is, and now you throw MCP into the mix, it gets even more confusing, and that's the problem. And I think one of the things that is missing is that solution-oriented thinking versus product-oriented thinking, like what you were saying before, right? You have a technical specification coming out of, or a feature coming out of the whole 3GPP pipeline, and that would easily translate into a monetizable service, right? Now you have to think about layers, right? SMS is just like, it's a communication API. Somehow it got squished into network API, which I think is a different thing. And now, in order to get to those higher order applications and services, right, that support that, you have to compose something that's very complex, right? It's not enabled down at the feature level, right? The technical feature level.
You need some orchestration layer. I mean, I agree with you. I don't know how to put it, but we obviously are missing some sort of a layer between what the vendor can produce, because Ericsson, Nokia, and Huawei, after the standardization, comes with so cool features. I mean, I was reading the latest release 19, and there's so many cool features even with 18. They will only live until there, right? Now, then you go to the telco, and the telco is selling SIMs and selling enterprise solution, but they are not in a position to take those features and build all the product management you need, all the way to monetize it. So there's kind of a gap missing. If you think about it, I think this joint venture from Ericsson, Aduna API, is trying to bridge that gap, at least for network APIs.
At a certain level, at a very low level.
In a very primitive way, I would say. Because the problem I see, if you look back, right? I mean, if you take, for instance, Jensen Huang, I love the guy because he's really smart. He was saying, look, my biggest differentiator here is not the GPU. People tend to believe that it's GPU, but no, it's not really GPU. The real differentiator for me is the platform, and that platform is CUDA. And of course, you have many, many different services. But on top of CUDA, you have 2 million developers. So it's the way he has built this level of abstraction. I mean, he builds the machine and the GPUs. But on top of that, he has this orchestration layer where you have 1 or 2 million developers, and they create whatever you want. From communications to space and new materials, right? So this is the kind of aspects we're missing. And I think I've been very bold to say that, I don't know, maybe we need someone like DSMA to take a more active role to build developer community. Um, for me, it's a bit of it's really disappointing to see that one of the largest industry in the world, right, with 9 billion, doesn't have a developer community. I mean, it's fragmented, but it doesn't have, right? I mean, it's weird. It's weird. I think we are still in the boys SMS kind of mentality.
Yeah, and my observation, because I don't just cover telco, I cover a lot of stuff. I think you are absolutely correct. It's missing, and I think the industry is still struggling with this whole topic of that next level of innovation, right? What does innovation really look like? And and I don't blame the industry. It's a really tough. If it was so easy, then somebody would have figured it out by now, right? Exactly. But it's just constant churning of what looks like mutual confusion. But I know that sounds really horrible. But you and I, we've been witnessing this stuff for years. So, but we are trying to help. We're not just trying to be like. Right. I know that you're trying to help. You're trying to clarify stuff and, get the ball moving for the industry, because it is a great industry. But, I want to get final take on a 6G. I know we're going kind of long, but I don't care. I love talking to you, and this is really cool. You mentioned the geopolitics and sort of this. It looks like there's, a couple of years ago or 3 years ago, we're even 5 years ago, we were talking about bifurcation of the ecosystem, the mobile wireless ecosystem, right? Now it looks more than bifurcation. It looks like fragmentation, right? And that's completely counter to the dynamic that we saw that brought everything together for 5G, right? How do you think that's going to impact? It almost sounds like a loaded question, but I would love to get your perspective.
No. It's actually is one of the trends we need to see in 2026. I think there is now, if you think in the past, right, when Trump administration started with the bans in 2017, right, I think that was the first Huawei ban, and then it was the semiconductor. It was a more soft stand via diplomacy to say, look, we prefer to use. If you remember, there was this clean networks concept, and some few countries pick up, but some other countries say, no, I prefer to use my Huawei as a vendor. So it was not really so dramatic, but now I think we see a different type of US push, and I think this one is more dramatic. It will incorporate not only diplomacy, but even sanctions for countries who are not aligning to their tech stack, right? And that also mission critical infrastructure like telecommunications. So that's one part. Now, China used to be kind of patient about it. They were not responding so hard, but I think now they realize that now this is a real geopolitical tech war. So they have responded. If you look at Nokia and Ericsson shares in the largest market for telecommunication has dropped to low single digits from 15% they used to have. That's several million base stations less. And now Europe is coming again and saying, look, we're going to revive the Huawei and ZTE ban. We have Latin America also with a strong push now from the US administration to also go for what they call allies network. So I think that will definitely affect the standard, and we are at a big risk that this 5G, 6G standard maybe never see the lights as in the same shape as a 5G.
Yeah.
5G. So for me, it's not good because the reason why we can have, I mean, we can complain about the industry and so, but the real reason why we have 9 billion subscribers, phones that work anywhere in the world, almost magic is with anyone, uh, price per GV that is as low as in India, I think is 10 cents. The reason for that is because we have been able to remove all our differences as fellows, world citizens, and come together to build standards. Now, if that gets dropped, we go back to, well, the CDMA era, right?
But hey, so let's back into your earlier statement that 5G disappointed. Why don't we recognize that as probably the greatest success, right? Is that with 5G, we had a single standard and globally. And what a lot of folks don't recognize, and I think a lot of policymakers don't recognize this either. Actually, most people don't recognize 3GPP. The standards come together through a consensus process, a constellation of bodies that agree upon that standard through this consensus process. It's conducive to a global agreement, right? And so, yeah, I think this is going to be probably the most important topic going into MWC this year. If it isn't, then it's a huge miss. But I think it's
I agree.
The biggest topic, and this will define what 6G can be, right? At the end of the day.
And I tell you, I've been very glad, and I think he has always been a super strong voice of Boria. Boria Ekholm has been raising this for years. I think the first time Boria raised this issue was actually in the first Trump administration. That, look, I mean, any geopolitical divide here will only affect the end user. So I think it's important, and I can tell you, coming back to 3GPP, I think it's easy to criticize, right? And I think sometimes people might misunderstand me. But imagine the task of someone sitting in 2010 when the 5G started and trying to imagine the future on how networks will behave in 2030. That's kind of the engineering. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know where I'm going to be in 1 week. And these guys, they need to think 20 years ahead, 15 years ahead. So building a standard is really one of the most amazing engineering task in humankind. And I think we do a pretty good job there. And I can tell you, I think coming back to the 5G thing, this is what I really struggle, Leonard. 5G as a product is not a bad product. I was reading about India, right? Indian 5G. Well, by the way, 5G is working somewhere, and it's in India. Indians are super happy with 5G. So at least we have one country out of, I don't know, 280 or something. Now, one thing I was reading which I was shocked is that in India, from LTE to 5G, you get 19 times the speed. Of course, Geo was as smart as, forget about 5G NSA, I go 5G SA directly, and they have scales to have very cheap devices. 19 times. Now, the price is the lowest in the world. So there's no other industry in the world that will give you something that is 19 times better, in a way. And
that's pretty incredible. Yeah.
That's pretty incredible. Now, the only problem we have is that we don't have a clue how to monetize that amazing improvements, right? We don't know.
But no, going back to this, the earlier discussion we had about sort of the readiness, 5G readiness and timing of monetization or even scaling, the thing is, that is, I think, the leapfrog dynamic. They weren't first, they came in about the middle. And we have to, a lot of folks in the industry focus on the network. But the thing is think about like what Qualcomm and others have done on the device and the modem and bringing 5G features and capabilities to the lower tier smartphones. And so you have this diffusion of capability. And so that makes it ripe for India to take advantage of that technology diffusion at that point and penetration to do what they've done, right? And I think that was maybe and going back to my argument about NSA had its place for the earlier adopters, because the cloud transition was also the cloud native transition very, very difficult. We all know about that, right? It's huge architectural shift and lift from the legacy architectures of the leading the leading telcos. Yeah. That's not generative AI, but anyway, so I just wanted to point that out. No, this is really great stuff. So really quickly, because we're running really long here, which is great. But let's talk about generative AI and why it matters. And then what about AI? What are your thoughts there? So we're going into 2026. I know that we've already talked about the Neoclouds, but in regards to generative AI and how it's going to influence the industry this year, what are some of those key thoughts that you're taking in and sharing with your audience?
Well, first, I expect that anything in Mobile World Congress will have the AI tag.
No doubt.
Even the coffee was going to be AI coffee. I think, of course, we're at the top of the hype, and sometimes, as former boss used to say, humans are very good at overestimating the present, but underestimating the future. So we're probably still in a very big hype in terms of what GenAI and AI can do. And I think this year, and I think this is an important part, we will need to start seeing the ROI of many of the projects that are running today.
Oh, yeah.
And here's where we will need to listen carefully to the CFOs after spending a lot of money in different projects to see if the money is coming. To AI, I think I have two views, right? First of all, AI and ML has been used in this industry for almost 60 years. I mean, actually, it's interesting. One of the first industry to adopt AI and neural networks, this was like one layer neural network, I think, was telecom industry under Bell Labs. They were using like super simple neural networks for signaling. So we have a long history as a telecom industry using artificial intelligence and machine learning. And now, of course, 2017, the transformer revolution happens. Yeah. Realize that if you put attention to certain words, you can create whatever you want, right? And then on top of that, on parallel, you have all the diffusion models that also develop. And now you have this generative AI. I think the impact for the industry is threefold. First, I think when it comes to coding, there is a massive opportunity to accelerate that part, and it's well proven. I mean, you can there you have the hype, right? In my view, it will help developers to build fast.
Yeah.
Now, if you listen to Dario Amodei, he say, "My developers don't code anymore." So. But definitely, and then you have Mark Zuckerberg saying, "Look, 50% of my code is already AI." So, but definitely that's a big part. And why is it's big? Because that will accelerate the R&D, especially from vendors, but also will help telcos to actually develop applications much faster. So I think that's one big thing. The second part, which is more general to the industry, and I gladly saw that. It is a lot. Is doing something with, I think, with Microsoft. Is now that you have an AI assistant, we can debate how intelligent is that assistant. You can definitely use it to improve your productivity. So I think, if I remember, it's a lot, right? They were training 30,000 employees on using Copilot. The same with Telstra. Telstra was doing something similar, also with a partnership with Accenture and Microsoft. And I think that is a smart, quick win, right? I mean, even if you write an email, if you can write it faster, or if you have a meeting and you can take notes and process those notes and send the meaning of meetings, you're saving minutes of time. So I think that's a quick win productivity tool that I think all companies are adopting. The third one, which I think is interesting, is essentially the use of generative AI for improving the customer experience. And I think we have seen many cases whereby it can be a really, really, really solid tool for companies to approach. Now, what I think is the big question for now, and I think GenAI is one thing, but is agentic AI, right? So now we're gonna make these LLM-based models to also be connected with actions.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, where the fun will start, because now one thing is that you ask a model to check your emails and do a summary. Another thing is that you ask the model to look into those emails, find which are relevant, and of course reply back and even take actions in different other systems. So agentic, for me, agentic AI is where we need to start looking into. There are so many pilots on automating network operations with agentic AI. Customer service, sales. So I think that's where I will put my attention. And if there's one case I will put a lot of attention, is the one that Etisalat is doing with IBM. They have signed actually an AI agentic framework using Watson X, and they're planning to roll out agents in Etisalat as not employees, but as kind of a second layer of people, of workers.
Yeah. Well, I like that what you said in the title of one of your articles recently is that treating employees, agents like employees is.
No, we are far. I mean, this is the hype that pissed me off, because I can imagine the McKinsey CEO is a very smart person. So the statement sounds disingenuous. I mean, agents are still based on LLM models. LLM models have many, many issues that we cannot solve because they are unsolvable. One big problem is hallucination. And the hallucinations are pretty high, like 15.
They're much higher than people think. And even with reasoning models, I had some practitioners tell me that it's more practically on the order of, anywhere from 40 to 50%. That's pretty bad. Even though the people are going up on stage saying 90% accuracy, it's much lower than that. Yeah.
Okay. And so then you can imagine, Leonard, that I connect, because the agent will be based on that LLM model. And now I will have that agent, for instance, checking fraud.
Yeah.
So imagine a bank whereby the agent miss 20% of the frauds.
It's really bad. Yeah. Well, I mean, but that's the thing. It's the term AI has been misappropriated to mean generative AI or to include generative AI when there's all this other work that has been done. This is the reason why I wanted to distinguish between how will Gen AI matter versus AI. Like you said, Telco has been working with ML and AI broadly for decades. And some of the stuff that works, which took a lot of effort, right? It finally has a degree of reliability where it exhibits value that's being either confused or overshadowed by generative AI narrative. And so that's one of the concerns. And I mentioned before, so my whole view on what's going to happen for the industry in 2026 is what I mentioned earlier, unlearning. There's going to be a mass scramble to unlearn, and then there's going to be a need for filters, folks like you who can kind of see through all the hype and help the industry land on something that's workable. because most of the things that are floating out there are not workable. They're going to be wasted investments based on misguided narratives. So, but
I think it's also one of the things you learn in this domain, right? Is even the most experts AI and ML developers, they tell you it's trial and error. I mean, it's really almost a science field that is mixed with art. So I think if I were in any telco shoes, I will be experimenting like crazy. I will definitely make sure that all my employees understand AI, understand how to use it. I think that's a no-brainer. It's like the internet all era, right? When we moved from fax machines to emails. Well, at least you need
don't go there.
you need to train people to use an email, right? I think that's a no-brainer. And then the second thing that we have as an industry, and maybe this is politically incorrect to say, is that we are in an industry where our CEOs are not very technical. If you compare to tech industries, like, I mean, you have, I don't know, from Elon Musk to Jensen Huang to Mark Zuckerberg to Satya Nadella. I mean, these are developer level CEOs. Our CEOs are not coming from that ground. They're coming mainly from CFO ground. So we will need them to understand AI. And I think you made a super good point. Like basic understanding, like, hey, look, GenAI is just one piece of a much bigger picture. So when someone talks to you about GenAI, understand that that's one context. So CEOs will need to make a big effort to also learn and unlearn what they know about AI.
Yeah. And the unlearning part, there's a lot of unlearning that has to happen. But hey, with that, man, this was really fun, and it's an absolute pleasure to hang out with you. This is going to be the longest podcast I ever recorded. We're having so much fun.
Podcast. Make sure you have a big coffee.
But why don't you share with the audience what you're up to now, and how they get in touch with you? I mean, obviously, Substack people, hit them up. Substack, big time.
I mean, as you know, Leonard, I love to interact ideas. If you want to reach me out, I'm always available on LinkedIn. If you really want to go with more provocative thoughts and ideas, we can meet in Substack. I have my Substack that is actually growing really, really fast. And I will be in Barcelona, so happy to meet you all with tapas. And be your guide, as I can speak Spanish, so I can be your guide. So looking forward to everyone. And I love what you're doing, Leonard. It's really important for us to build a telco community where we can talk about the real thing, right? I think this is super important for us. So I think really appreciate your effort. I know you put a lot of effort, and you're everywhere also. So you have a super busy agenda. So really appreciate the effort you're doing for the industry.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you. And so, again, thank you so much. And everyone, please subscribe to our podcast, which will be featured on the Next Curve YouTube channel. Check out the audio version on Buzzsprout, or find us on your favorite podcast platform. Also, subscribe to the Next Curve research portal at www.next-curve.com and our Substack for the tech and industry insights that matter. Sebastian, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll have to do this again. And I will see you in Barcelona, right? We will make an appointment for sure.
Fantastic, Leonard. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Leonard. Take care.
Thank you.